viewers.
I'm waiting to see if we're even on.
Well, it hasn't popped up on Facebook yet. Have 0 viewers.
Does it show that it's on live? Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Well, if you're just joining us, hang on for a second. We're getting set up for the Q&A with City Manager Armando Villa. Give us a minute or so to build an audience. It takes people a couple minutes to get the alert that we are live. And I will be looking here.
There's 1 viewer.
As well. There we go. We got 9 viewers, 11 viewers.
Oh, looks like they're starting.
Okay, so people are coming in. We're going to start in just a second.
Turn your sound.
Yep, I'm turning my sound down.
Now we're up to 11.
We're getting all the technical issues taken care of. And see, when I swipe over here, I can see the comments that are coming in. So we are just about ready to go. Kristen, are you set on your end? Kristen's manning the camera for us.
I'm trying to get on the live.
I've got it on here, so we're good from this end. I had it on the Menifee 24/7 page.
Yeah.
You might have to refresh it. Or I'll just go ahead and do it from this end. We're up to 13 people.
Okay, well,
Gina Gonzalez,
who's she?
let's ignore her. You're not allowed to ask any questions, Gina.
I'm watching you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm Doug Spoon with Menifee 24/7, and welcome to our Facebook Live chat with Armando Villa. Thank you for being with us, Armando, our city manager. We found that this was a very successful format when we did one, what was it, a couple of weeks ago with Candace Rains from the Paris Union High School District. We had a lot of good questions and a lot of really positive interaction, which we appreciated. So this is your opportunity now. We're talking about the city of Menifee. We know a lot of people have questions and comments, and we will get to as many of them as we can. We've got some questions prepared for Armando, and we certainly thank him for agreeing to do this. And we'll take probably the next 45 minutes or so to talk about a variety of subjects. Once again, we just ask that you be respectful in your comments. Be patient while we try to get to people's questions, and we hope that this is, you have to think about this as being a rare opportunity, because if you go to a city council meeting, yeah, you get your 3 minutes to speak your piece, but the Brown Act prohibits them from really answering you. So here you have a chance to ask a question, and we'll do the best we can. Now, if it's something real specific that maybe one of his department heads needs to answer and we have to get back to you, we will let you know. But this is the man, and I think he's got a lot of stuff prepared for us. So thank you for agreeing to do this, Armando. And we wanted to start out, I think, talking about Measure DD, which is one of everybody's, I wouldn't say favorite topics, but a hot topic. So this was started 2 years ago. I think everybody knows this is a 1% sales tax. So you buy something, a penny on a dollar goes to this Measure DD fund, which is for public safety, and that includes police, fire, roads, that type of thing. Now, Armando, can you explain you were telling me a little bit earlier about what is covered, you buy what, where, and what goes into this Measure DD?
Sure. First of all, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and for those of you at home, thank you very much for opening and welcoming me. The Measure DD has been talked about a lot over the last couple of years, and this is relatively a new thing for us too, because in 2016, as you may know, the voters overwhelmingly, 67% of the voters voted to approve Measure DD, which is a 1 cent transactional tax, to be able to cover for those things that we just lost funding for. And we define those things as essential vital services to the city, which in most cases, as you know, for a city is public safety. So over the last year since it was adopted, the first year we ended up raising about $1.3 million in 2016, and then 17 was our first full year of recovery,
Right.
and you know, we had generated about $9.5 million in revenues. So then we started planning, right? We started planning with those revenues. What are we going to do? And what the voters told us in a survey we conducted was that they were very concerned with safety, you know, for quality of life and transportation. So when we put together our first budget for our Measure DD, we focused on those things: public safety and all those things that related to transportation safety. So when you look at our budget for Measure DD, 55% of those funds are actually used for police and fire. And if you recall, back in 17, we, with the help of the council, we augmented our police department by adding an additional 20 hours of police services. We added about 13 more officers, dedicated officers, to our workforce. And that's just the police department to our contract with the sheriff. Mm-hmm. And then we added in the fire department, we added more dedicated safety personnel. We moved from a rural development to a more of a municipal development type of a coverage, and we added a paramedic unit to Station 7. Mm-hmm. So that represented roughly about 55% of the funds that were raised. In addition to that, we took an opportunity to also deal with a whole bunch of our transportation problems that were actually safety projects. Mm-hmm. So we ended up drafting a proposal to be able to fix a lot of our roads. That represented roughly about $4.5 million. And then one of the biggest projects was the Scott Road interchange, the overpass. We funded about $2 million last year, and then we funded $2 million this year. So mm-hmm. It is a blessing in the sky to be able to deal with all these issues.
Now, I think one thing that people are either confused about or get irritated with is the issue of Measure DD and then separately the VLF fees. Because when this was brought up, the argument was, we need this because we've lost VLF fees for 7 years. We've lost millions of dollars. Now that VLF is back, people are questioning why you need Measure DD. Can you kind of address that?
Well, you know, a lot of people have tried to put those two funding sources into one bucket, and I think it's very, very difficult to do that. And again, they shouldn't do that because, you know, if you think about the time when we were thinking about doing Measure DD, I think one of the straws that broke the camel's back was the loss of VLF. But if you think about when the city incorporated, it incorporated possibly at the worst economic time in the U.S. in 2008, and then by about 2011, we really hadn't done all the things that we needed to do as a city. And then what happens? The governor decides to take away VLF fees. So we were already struggling, and then we struggled some more when we lost the VLFs. So the VLF is a funding source that most cities get. Back then, it used to be a $50 per person that live in your city. I think it amounted to about $3 to $4 million for the city. And then after it was restructured to be adjusted based on property taxes in lieu of. So when they were restored, you know, we were restored a higher an amount. But if you think about it, we lost approximately $25 million in revenues for 6 years. So the city was not looking very good.
Right.
And those monies, by the way, you'll never get back. You know?
Right.
So
you didn't get a retroactive payment when it came back.
We didn't. We're still trying, and I hope we can send the governor a letter. But the thing is that when I looked at the financials, I saw that the city was actually in an attempt to stay alive and to keep essential services. They were actually deferring a lot of improvements. They were deferring hiring people, and they weren't really providing that vital level of service that required, because we just didn't have the funding. Mm-hmm. So that's why this idea of creating a measured a 1 cent transactional tax to be able to supplement more funding, to be able to get us to a point where we can provide that level of service, that essential level of service.
Right.
And we did. And luckily in 2016, the voters were willing to help us with that.
And isn't it true that several local cities that never lost their VLF, they've had to adopt an additional tax like this too, right?
That's so true, because if you look around our area, just about the only city in our in our region that doesn't have a transactional tax is Lake Elsinore. The cities of Temecula, Murrieta, Wildomar, and Hemet, they all have a transactional tax, you know. And it's because of the rising cost of public safety, the rising cost of providing essential services to the community.
Mm-hmm. Now, I see we're getting some questions here, and we'll get to you in just a couple minutes. We want to just check in with people, make sure you can all hear us okay. Go ahead and leave a message on there if anybody's having any problems with the volume or anything like that. Would they want us to speak up just a little bit, maybe? Okay, we can do that. I can yell. This is kind of tied in with the, since it's DD is a public safety issue, we're talking about police. Now, I've reported before that there's been a big increase from the county for the sheriff's contract, which has now led to the resolution to create our own police department. Mm-hmm. So could you talk about that a little bit, about why long-term you think that will be a better way to go, and why we haven't filled all the sheriff's positions mm-hmm. that we were promised? Because people are saying, you guys must be spending that money somewhere else, because where's these extra sheriffs? Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a big question. So let me break it down a little
right.
bit. I think I want to separate it because, you know, the whole reason why our city council and our staff saw the opportunity to create a police department was because we wanted local control. We wanted to be able to deal with crime on a more localized basis. And the model that we had a contract with the sheriff wasn't conducive to making sure that we addressed the issues that we needed to address. We had difficulties with getting additional patrol hours, and then response times started to escalate, right? Mm-hmm. And all those was a recipe for us to say, look, we need to be able to develop a model that works better for us local now that we're a growing city, 92,000 people. So coupled with the fact that the sheriff for the last couple of years, they've been having to increase their hourly rate to in the tune of about 6% a year. And this last year, we actually got notified that those increases will go up to 12 to 13%. So, like any responsible, prudent manager, we took the task to try to analyze what that meant for us over the next 5 years.
Right. And
we found out that the result was devastating for us. The contract would have gone from $17 million, $19 million, to all the way to $25 million in 5 years. That would have been 50% of our general fund, just for police services.
Right.
So we took the task to try to understand why that was happening and whether we're ready to do our own police department. And we found out that indeed we could create a model that would give us localized level of service, and it would be a lot less expensive than that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we communicated that to our council, and the council was very receptive and ready to do it.
So a lot of the Measure DD money is still sitting there waiting to be spent on these things. It hasn't been squandered away by the city in other areas, and people can find that out, right? Can't they go on the website and look at the budget and the expenses and the every time you go to a council meeting, they have all the transactions listed there for people to look at, right?
You know, actually, we take this issue very serious, and we're very transparent when it comes to reporting that. Mm-hmm. We're mandated to take every proposal through a Measure DD subcommittee, an oversight subcommittee that the council wanted to establish for the sake of being transparent with the public. Mm-hmm. We have at least 2 meetings a year. This last couple of years, we had 3 to 4 meetings with the subcommittee members. One of the things that it was important to me is to make sure that the subcommittee understood how important their role was to us, right? We can sit there and develop a spending plan, but the reason why the council wanted to create a subcommittee was to make sure that the public was comfortable with the spending plan. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, today we had a subcommittee meeting where we took the results of a mid-year budget to them. We showed them the amounts that were spent for police, the amounts that were spent for fire, and the amounts that were spent on public safety transportation projects. Mm-hmm. And to my satisfaction. I think they were pretty pleased with the outcome. They continue to be pretty pleased. I have not heard any negative comments from the subcommittee members about any misspending.
Right.
You know, we try to make sure that we make the presentations in a very understandable, non-accountant level type of explanation. So we feel comfortable that they're satisfied, and therefore the public should be satisfied because those reports are made public.
Right. Let's go ahead and get to some of our questions here.
I want to make sure we have people share.
Right. Oh, yes, we did want to mention that. If you want to share this broadcast, we urge you to share this broadcast with your friends. Maybe people that didn't hear that this was coming on tonight that want to watch it live. Yes, you'll be able to go back and watch the recorded version, but you may have a friend that you've discussed an issue with that had a question, and if you share it with them, they'll be able to hear the whole conversation. Now, one of the first questions was one that I would have bet on it. What date will the movie theater construction begin? So that's got to be right up there on the most asked question. So what can we say about that?
I get asked that all the time. You know, I'm at Target and I get asked, when is the theater coming? You know, I feel very comfortable with the process so far, although it's taken a little bit longer than expected. But we keep talking to the owner-operator of the theater. They continue to submit plans. I mean, they have a slew of plans. They have grading plans. They have architectural plans. They have water quality plans. So far, we feel like they submitted about 90% of all the plans that they need to submit to get those permits. And like I said, we keep getting some very positive responses from them that they're going to be under construction this summer. But we can't guarantee because we're not responsible for that construction. You know, there's a lot of decisions that a developer makes when they're going to construct. One of them is funding, right? Getting their financing in place. We feel comfortable that developer is well funded. So I expect that there'll be some construction going on this summer.
Okay. We do want to make sure that people understand that part of this involves the city approving the plans that are submitted, and then part of it is waiting on the developer to answer the plan checks and to decide when they're going to do this. I think it's fair to say that the Krikorian company has ramped things up more in the last year or so. You know, maybe people are wondering why is this taking 5 years or whatever, but not a lot was happening with it until they felt they were ready with their funding and deciding to take on additional part of the property. So that's kind of what has gone into that whole thing. I know we joke too about the signs that say coming soon, and they've said coming soon for 8 years. But when a project is announced and the property is sold, the city wants to let people know that this is what's coming. We try to announce that too, but that doesn't mean it's coming tomorrow. What are the latest? This is Lee Clark. What are the latest to confirm occupancy of town center where the theater will be? Now, I don't know if this is more a question for economic development on the exact businesses. Now, I know there's going to be a hotel there.
Well, so far we've approved in the planning stages. We've approved a hotel, a medical office building, and several commercial buildings that are in the process around the theater. Right, that we still can't release the names of the tenants because we can't yet. Right. But we expect that this summer into the end of the year we'll be under construction with some of those. Okay.
I would assume that some of these smaller businesses, they're kind of waiting on the theater to get going first before they come in, right?
That's true.
So
very true. Yeah.
That's the frustration, that's the anchor business that everybody's waiting on, but it is still in the works and it is still coming. Becky Lynn Westbrook asks, when are you going to spend some money on Bradley and Murrieta Road to stop the flooding? So now we're back on the subject of the rain, and it's going to rain hard again this weekend. And I think the video that we showed of the flooding of Bradley Road was the most widely viewed video that we've ever posted. It's like over 100,000 people have watched that just because they're so amazed that what's normally a dry creek bed was just crazy and shut down that. And that's a main artery through town. There is a bridge project. Where do we stand with that?
So, I was very, very concerned with that video too. And We never seen it that high. At least I haven't seen it that high. And even Murrieta Road was impacted by the rain. So what happens is we have approximately $650 million worth of projects that we need to build in our city, right? And that's all included in our capital improvement program. We don't have all the funds to build all the $650 million projects, right? But we do have pockets of money that are Measure DD funding, road tax money. Sometimes we try to pair up grants from the federal government and from the county and from other funding sources to be able to put together projects. And right now, the two largest projects that took a lot of our funding was Newport Road Bridge, and you can see the results of it. Very, very successful project. And also under construction is Scott Road. We put in approximately $11 million of our money into that project, combined with the monies that the state put in, the county put in, and then WRCA put in. So we've realized a $57 million project, right? And then on our next priority project is Holland Road. The next one is Bradley Road. So, but doesn't mean we haven't been doing anything about that. We've actually set aside pockets of money so that we can go and design the building. We can go get the environmental clearances. So we have right now approximately a 95% complete project. And we have some funding. Remember, last year, the council set aside approximately $250,000 in Measure DD funding to be put away for the future construction of Bradley Road. And this next year, we plan to come back with the council so that we can update our CIP, our capital improvement plan, so that we can put more funding to that. We estimate that we need roughly about $12 million to build that bridge. And we're starting to kind of put the pockets of money together in place so that we can build it.
That's what I was going to ask you, is how often do you reevaluate all the projects, and does something like this flooding that was the worst we've seen in a while, does that move that project up on the priority list?
It can. Public outcry is always very valuable, right? We have to answer to the public's concerns. And, what I feel comfortable with is that we have our 5-year capital improvement program, and we have programmed these projects to be implemented over the next 5 years. Bradley Road is in our top 5 list, okay? We need to get over the construction of these other roads so that we can then begin to focus 100% to Bradley Bridge. But certainly, if it becomes the public's priority and it becomes the council's priority, we can always change the timing of those things.
Okay.
I have a question that just came up from Junior, and he says, can you explain why Holland Road came before Bradley Road?
Why Holland Road came before?
Why the improvements on Holland Road came before Bradley Road?
So what we're starting to see is a problem with traffic queuing, traffic backups, and we know that when we need to build a relief arterial going over the freeway without having on-ramps. So we're starting to see a whole bunch of traffic on Newport Road between Hahn Road and Antelope, and we need to be able to offer some relief. And over the next 5 years, as the city grows a little bit more, we can expect to see more traffic, and it's going to heavily impact that intersection. And when we finish Scott Road, we're going to impact that intersection. So we need to be able to give our residents a way to get from one side of town to the other side of town without having to go through the on-ramps and off-ramps. And that's why it's key that we program that.
And isn't it true that the Holland overpass, more of the financial burden is on the city than, say, the Scott Road? Because the Scott Road was funded a lot more by Caltrans and the county, because it's more of a major thoroughfare, right?
Very true statement. The Scott Road was a combination of funding from all different pockets of money from the county, WRCOG, the state, some federal funding, and the city. So we were able to offer some of that funding, that gap funding, to be able to get that project realized. Holland Road, on the other hand, is 100% city. 100% city.
So I think maybe that's the best answer to give all these people who say, why didn't, you dummies, why didn't you build a Holland Road overpass first? Well, finances is a big factor in these things.
True.
Becky Westbrook has another question about the homeless problem. She says in Sun City and around Winco, but we know it's in several parts of town. what is being done about that? I know the city is involved in an effort to work with that, right?
Yes. So homelessness is a huge issue countywide and actually statewide. And believe it or not, we don't have as many problems as many other cities in the region have. But we do have a homeless issue in our city. And how we try to attack it is we're not this is not the best thing we do. We provide services to our city residents, but we're not experts in dealing with homelessness issues. So what we do is we contract through SWAG, which is Social Workers Action Group, and they have a really good model that is working really well. So we try to fund these programs so that they can offer not just the issue of finding them a home, but some of these homeless individuals, they actually have some mental health problems, they have addiction problems, that they need help. And these people, SWAG, can actually connect them to the social services that they need so that they can seek the help that they need, from behavioral health to social services. A lot of these individuals have rights, they're entitled to some benefits. So we use SWAG as a conduit to be able to provide that relief to these individuals.
We've had members of SWAG in studio talking to them, and they've told us some of the great success stories they've had already. But that's an ongoing process. That's something that will be a problem for a while. Joe Ganino, will bike safety lanes be incorporated into all new road construction?
Yes, and the answer is yes. We have actually, it's not complete, but our circulation element to our whole city includes a component of what we call active transportation. It's all these routes that are bike lanes and then pathways. So eventually, over time, we will be able to realize the construction of these roads to include bike lanes and pedestrian lanes.
Okay, good. We've had a couple questions here from people, and I know this has come up lately with all the rains. The potholes, dirt roads that are a mess, that haven't been graded. How does that process work? Crews are out there right now working on that, aren't they?
So right after the rains, our public works director and I took a drive to town, and we noticed that there was a lot of damage from the storm. You can't prevent potholes. People are going to drive through them. Once you get water under there, it's going to become a problem. But the rains in this event were relentless. They just kept coming, and we couldn't go out there to repair them on a rainy day because we're going to go back to be destructive. So we waited in order to be efficient. And then we had the last event was pretty severe. So we had to utilize just about every member of our staff to deal with street closures and the rain. So the following week, we actually went out to do a whole bunch of repairs, and we noticed that it took a beating. Our streets took a beating. So we are going to be actually addressing that issue through our pavement management plan, of which a lot of the Measure DD funds go to.
And people, there is a mechanism for people to report potholes, right?
Yeah, we have an app, a city app. I'm pretty sure you know about it. Very easy to report a pothole. What we try to do is we try to respond within 24 hours, and our guys are very quick. They're monitoring that, and they'll get to it in 24 months, 24 hours. I'm sorry.
Lee Clark is saying, no more fast foods. Where have I heard that before? Can you do a 90-10 split, 90% restaurants and 10% fast foods? Do you have a process like this? Well, I know I've talked to Gina Gonzalez in Economic Development before, and she says you're always out there. You go to these conferences and you're always soliciting, but it's hard to turn down a business that's coming in that wants to pay money to be here in the city, right?
Well, we try to do our best to make sure that when we're reviewing a new proposal that we try to limit the number of drive-thrus, because drive-thrus mean fast food restaurants, right? But we also do a lot of work through our economic development department to try to go after some of those sit-down full-service restaurants. And what they look at is they look at economics, right? They look at their ability to sell food to people that can afford it. And sometimes, they look at who's here in town, and we already have some of the nicer restaurants in town, and they're looking for that synergy, and they're looking for that critical mass to come here. And for some reason, the fast foods, they all want to be here. Again, we try really hard to limit them. We can't really prohibit them, but we try really hard to make sure that every development has no more than 3, so that we balance it out a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, it's hard to bring those fast food, those full service restaurants to town.
We'll just have a brief check again. Kristen, let me know if there's major questions that I'm missing here. We're both trying to monitor them. Again, if you're just joining us, this is a Q&A with Armando Villa, the city manager of Menifee. If you've got any questions for him, this is your chance to do it.
I have one. Are there any development plans off McCall and the 215, or are anywhere else off of McCall?
Yes, we do. We have a huge development, and the name escapes me, but there's a significant amount of activity that's in the planning stages, and you gotta recognize that it takes a while for these projects to go through the planning process. Sometimes it's 24 months to 36 months, but there's probably about 3,000 single family units, and the importance of that is that the single family units bring in the commercial. So we're starting to see some activity in the residential sector that would ultimately yield some commercial activity and some industrial activity. I say that inside of 5 years, we're going to see more of that take place in that area.
Now, that is one of the areas that Walmart had planned to come in. There at McCall on the freeway and at Scott Road on the freeway. Is there any update on that?
Yeah. Well, we learned, actually one project is approved, and we learned that this issue of internet sales is really impacting businesses' ability to build brick and mortar. So we feel that they're pausing to see how this is going. Ultimately, we will see one of those stores in our town. We don't know where.
Okay.
That's a corporate decision. But we've seen a slowdown in brick and mortar type of developments like that, only because of the internet. It's impacting.
Yeah. Okay. How are we doing on time, Kristen?
We're doing good. We're at 7:33.
Okay. Again, we would just like your feedback on how you like this kind of a format. We asked this during the first one we did. Give us a thumbs up or a positive or negative comment on, do you like these Q&As and would you like to have more of them? We can certainly put in the request to have other city officials, school district people. If you've got a suggestion for someone.
We have lots of thumbs up,
okay,
lots
good.
of hearts.
Yeah, this is something that we feel is valuable because, as I say, you don't have many opportunities to, not that this is face-to-face, it's kind of virtually face-to-face, but an opportunity for you to ask something and get an answer right here. So we will continue to do these kinds of things.
At the new center at Newport, where the Canes is,
Raising Canes, right?
there's 2 other buildings that are off on the other end with no signs on them. Can you tell us what's going in there?
Well, you caught me there. I don't have the names yet.
Okay.
We can get back to you on that. We'll actually post it on our social media.
Okay.
We try to do our best to keep up with the plans of who's signed and who's coming in, and
There is 2 off by itself, way in the back of the parking lot.
Okay,
That's what
we'll work on getting that. Let's see. Oh, Andrew Stevenson, what app is this? So what to get the city app?
The Pothole app, I think,
Well,
is what they were looking for.
No, there's a city app, and that's part of the app.
Gina has pinned one at the bottom of the feed.
Okay, so she's got. If you scroll
Gina's doing her
down,
job.
if you scroll down, Gina's given us some help here.
Comments?
So if you look down at the Gina Gonzalez link, that would be where you can get the city app.
It's extremely interactive. I use that all the time.
Casson Klein, I don't know about this guy.
And
Should
that
we
guy
ignore
Casson,
him?
I don't know if we should let him on.
Casson is a regular at council meetings, and he has a lot to do with development in the city. And he's asking, how will the added bike lanes be funded? Do we know an answer to that?
Well, a lot of our roads are part of our our network system, right? And sometimes when they're associated with a development, the developer pays for their share of the road, right? And then lately, though, what's been happening is with all this construction activity, is a lot of the roads are given to us by developers. We follow our standard. We follow the general plan standard that has the typical lanes and then the configuration for the bike lane. So some of them are funded through the developer requirements, but eventually, though, we will come back and we will try to find a way to link all these bike lanes together using transportation monies, gas tax monies, or some funding source to be able to close the gaps. So again, the general plan circulation element is in progress, and it's a 20-year, 30-year plan. We don't have $650 million today to be able to build all the roads that we need.
Right.
It's just on the availability of funding.
Okay.
We have another question from Misty Placencia, and she says, how are you going to handle traffic going and coming from Menifee Valley Middle School when the new sewer project starts on Garbani Road from Evans Road towards Marietta Road?
Yeah. Well, the good news that I have a team of engineers that work together with the water district and the sewer district, and they sit down and develop a circulation plan. I can't give you the details right now because I don't know that I've seen a plan yet, but we do have monthly, quarterly meetings with the water district. In fact, we had one today, and we talk about these projects and how those projects need to be designed and implemented to make sure that the disruption to the residents is minimal. They've done a really good job so far of coordinating these projects with us. Like I said, today we had a coordinating meeting that was about a 2-hour meeting, and it was a very successful meeting. So we'll post, try to post that plan in our website, and I'm surprised that Gina's not doing it right now.
Okay.
She probably will. Give her a minute.
Well, yeah. Bernadette Valdez and several others on here. I know the answer to this, but I'll let you go for this one. Bernadette Valdez, she says, tell us about Smart and Final, and is it gonna open?
Ouch.
Martin
Yeah.
Final, another popular question right here.
This is one that we just kind of brush off.
Yeah, well, this project really hurts me a lot because we tried really hard as a city to ensure that they stay in town. We did not want to get into the conflict that exists between the developer and Smart and Final. They're going to have their legal battles. We tried to be sort of the mediator between them two, and at the end of the day, it's a business decision that they have to make. All we know is that the developer really had delays that just Smart and Final couldn't afford, and they made a corporate decision to walk away from the project. They indicated to us that at the next opportunity they would be in town again. Probably not the same developer, but we have to help both of them, right? We want that project to be successful, so eventually we will end up having to help the developer find another end user. But again, that project is we tried really hard to make sure that they stayed, and we just couldn't.
One of the questions that used to be one of our most popular ones until it was taken over, I think, by the theater is Trader Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
And I've discussed this with Gina many times.
Mm-hmm.
Are we trying to get Trader Joe's? I think the city's made multiple efforts, haven't they, to try to attract a Trader Joe's?
I rather go to Barron's, and we're getting a Barron's.
We're getting a Barron's.
Yeah, we're getting a Barron's, and if they are coming to town, I'm pretty sure the others will come to town. Mm-hmm. But it is a matter of taste, and I think it's a matter of logistics for them. In another city where I was working at, we tried to get Trader Joe's, and they needed to have at least 3 other cities, attract the Trader Joe's for the sake of synergy and also delivering product to the store.
We're seeing lots of thumbs up on that one.
So I think it was a corporate decision, has been a corporate, not to be here for that reason, but I think they will eventually be here. Obviously, Barron's, very, very similar product they sell, they're here, and people can't wait for that to open. So they'll eventually be here.
Here I have another question from somebody named Matt
Matt Leesmeyer, kick him off of here too. All right, city councilman.
We've
Don't know the
seen
guy.
a lot of new job postings lately. How are these all being funded?
Well, interesting. You know, we have been in a expansion mode for the last 2 years, right? And a lot of it has to do with the development cycle that we've had. We've had a tremendous amount of residential activity, a tremendous amount of commercial activity, and we're just about to get a tremendous amount of industrial activity. We need to be able to staff up to be able to respond to some of that demand, right? We need to, we regulate development, so we need to be able to hire the right people to plan check, to inspect, to approve these projects, but we just don't do that. We make sure that we complement the other supporting departments in finance, HR, and PR. So last year we went through a process of hiring a lot of the technical positions that we have today. A lot of planners, engineers, and plan checkers, and those people are creating a demand for the support services in finance and HR. So we're now catching up to hiring those individuals, and all those are being funded by the expansion in our general fund, from revenues, from a healthier economy. You know, we have a very healthy economy right now. Our revenue collection from sales tax and property taxes have increased, so we feel comfortable that we can afford to keep those people for a while as we continue to expand our city. You know, we're not 2,000 people, and we're going to be 100,000 people pretty soon.
Right.
So we're going to need to be able to have that system in place to be able to provide those services to our residents.
So that kind of leads into the next question.
Where are we
Where are you
gonna
going to
put
put
'em?
all these people? And there's going to be a new location for City Hall. Can you give us an
Right,
update on that?
Right. So we have been working on that plan for a while, and let me tell you, it took a lot of convincing to make sure that people understood that we weren't just moving to a bigger place for nothing, right? You know, over the last 6 months, we've hired about 42 new people. That includes, over the last year actually, that includes engineers, planners, inspectors, plan checkers, and then now we're hiring the support personnel for HR. And if you look at our facility now, we were asking people to kind of get closer together and then kind of set up shop in an aisle, and it became unhealthy. It became really a liability, and you know, our city council knew that we needed to build a city hall, but we just didn't have the time to wait. If I started planning city hall now, I would have had something built in 3 to 4 years. We just didn't have the luxury of that time because of how we needed to grow. So that opportunity came up, and we took advantage of the developer wanting to lease the entire building to us, and we conditioned the facility to make sure that it worked to our needs, right? Eventually, when you visit City Hall in the future, and we're going to be moving in about 2 weeks, you'll see the first floor will be very conducive to all your permit needs, and then the second floor will be very conducive to supporting that. So we're trying to create a very super efficient model there, where we hope it works, and we sized it large enough so that we are going to be able to house all the new employees in that new city hall. I don't know for how long, but we're going to try our best. Yeah.
Well, the eventual plan is still to build a city hall in the Menifee Town Center, but that's down the road a few years, right?
Right.
So in the meantime, this is something that you can't wait 4 or 5 years for.
Right. I mean, it takes quite a while to design a facility, to finance it, and then to get it built. You know, I estimate about 5 years, and we just don't have that time.
Right.
We will start though. We will start planning that, and now that we have a police department need, and we're hoping that we can develop a facility that can house City Hall, maybe the police department. We just don't have all the elements of it, and I haven't really talked to the council about it. So,
right.
But we're hoping that we can fit all that stuff into that package.
Okay. We have a question here from Christina Buckley. She's a strong advocate for the special needs community and doing more in the schools and in the city. She asks, what is the status for the ADA Special Needs Park coming to the existing Lyle Marsh Park, and how can we get more special needs families involved in this process?
Well, the status is that we're going to be going out to construction probably, and I want to say April to May. That project is fully funded, and we're hoping to be under construction pretty soon here. I think we've done all the prep work to get all the sidewalks and the grading done, and we're just expecting to get the play infrastructure, the play furniture in place so we can start installing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll have it ready this summer, before the summer.
Okay.
There was one on here about a Senate bill. Senate bill, let's see if I can find it, 946. How will the city of Menifee handle the new Senate Bill 946? I don't even know what that bill is. Do you
Maybe
know?
we can have that view or explain to us what it is. And
Okay, maybe they can tell us what that is.
See if you can
they
expand. The person who's asking about Senate Bill 946,
Yeah, we don't
make
know
sure
what
we're
that
familiar
is. I
with
tried
that.
to research it on here and I can't find it, so
yeah.
I thought maybe you knew about it. There is some people that are talking about out in Romaland. They'd like some more lights and money spent out in the Romaland area, out in that district. I guess they don't feel like they're getting the love out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, the good news is that this year we are going to start 2 projects out in Romaland area, District 4. One is a sidewalk and street improvement project that's going to be tied to safety, children walking to school, and then the other project is going to be a resurfacing project this summer. And we're talking to our city engineer's office to make sure that we look at some of the safety projects out there to be able to program them for next year.
Okay.
Robert Layton, yes, we did go over the theater project. So rather than repeat that information, when this
Watch
is
the
done,
replay.
go back over the replay, and we spent quite a bit of time talking about that. The theater is still coming. Don't give up on it. But we urge all of you. We noticed that our audience has really grown in the last 15, 20 minutes, people that came in a little late. So right now we've got 37.
Wow.
Well, we were up to 40.
Yeah, we've been up in the 40s and 50s earlier, so people kind of come and go. But I think people know, you can watch this again later, but don't leave us just because you got your question answered.
Right. There's lots of other things. Doug, do you have some questions on your
Let's see,
plate
what else
that
do
need
we
to go?
have
If you
here?
guys are enjoying this broadcast, be sure that you share it with your friends. It'll be on our webpage tomorrow for replay, and we welcome you to do that.
I think we've covered pretty
Pretty
much all
much
the
covered
questions that
anything.
I had. Armando, do you have anything else that you want to say to people?
I just want to make sure that the public understands that these are very good times for the city of Menifee. I get excited every day. Every morning I wake up, it feels like a dream, and I'm not kidding about that. My background is urban planning, and I feel like I'm playing SimCity and molding a city here, and I'm getting paid for it. And every day that I walk into City Hall, my days go really fast because things are very exciting for Menifee. We're sort of the epicenter, ground zero for development right now, because we have all the commodities that developers look for. Right, we got land, we got water, we got synergy, we got quality of life, we got quality of place, and when you put all these things together, that means a very desirable place to live, right? And we still can say that we have affordable homes people can buy, and the value they get out of an affordable home, and then the quality of life that we're providing through a rec department. So very exciting times, and more in the future as we try to develop our police department, and we get a better handle of how we police our community. You're gonna see, I can bet you we're gonna have a much safer city, and that's only gonna be a recipe for a very desirable community. So very exciting times for Menifee. I wish everybody would get involved and go to city council meetings and let us know about the good things that we're doing, not just the bad things that we're doing, right?
Right. We're constantly urging people to go, and people will complain to us on Facebook, and we'll say, well, you can have your 3 minutes. They probably can't give you a direct answer right then, but they're very good about responding, directing you to a department head, or meeting you in the lobby to take your information to get back to you on things. We've got a couple of specific questions here about road
So
work.
let me mention something because I think
Yes.
people ought to know, and this is a testament of our city council members. There was one specific case that we heard at a couple of city council meetings ago about this kid that went up to the city council. And he said, look, I'm concerned that your skate park does not allow BMX riding. And our council took that very serious. And the council tasked our staff to look at ways to create a model where we can allow the skateboarders and the BMX riders to share the skate park. To me, that's the crux of why you need to be involved, right? Why you need to come to city council's meetings and let us know that you have an issue, right?
Right.
That kid changed the way we made policy because we reacted to his concerns, and we actually now have a skate park that is programmed to be able to deal with skateboarders and then now BMX. So
And
that was very interesting.
As I recall, that young man was very respectful in the way that he went about it, and he was patient. You know, it took a couple weeks or a month or whatever to get maybe the final answer to what he wanted, but they do listen when you come and address them. This question, Sandy Layton asks, when will the construction start to build the raised median on Antelope Road between Sunstream and La Piedra? Now, I spoke to Jonathan Smith, Public Works Director. I think he said that came from a grant and it might not happen for a few months. Do you have anything new on
Yes,
that?
we actually consider that a safety project. We could have used city funds, but we made the decision to apply for safety. It's called State Safety Improvement Plan program, and we were successful. We got, I think, over $500,000 to fix that.
Okay.
Now we have to wait a little bit because we have to design it. We have to make it safe. We have to go through traffic engineering design, and then eventually go out to bid and build it. So it'll take about a couple months before we implement that.
I think sometimes people don't realize how many of these projects are funded, at least partially, by grants. You've got people on staff that are constantly looking for opportunities like that, right?
Yes, we do. You know, we can ignore that, but I think there's a lot of money out there that we can tap into and leverage some of our resources, some of our funds to be able to build a bigger project. And in this case, we were successful. Sometimes we don't have the numbers that the state's looking for, but in this case we did, and we had a safety project that actually they felt that it was warranted. So we got the money.
Good.
I found the question from Chris that I replied to him, and he said there's a parking issue over there on Bradley Road by the Mormon church. They had some no parking signs, and it's illegal to park there, and somebody took the signs down, and it's causing a problem for parking over there. What can be done about that?
Okay. Well, if you have the app, you can go to our app and actually file a complaint. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go out there and investigate it tomorrow and try to find out what happened.
It's at Lazy Creek and Bradley.
Great. That is a very busy intersection over
He
there.
says there needs to be a light put in there too.
We've also got Bradley Allenok saying we need a traffic signal on Highway 74/Tradewinds Drive in Romoland area. Romoland area roads need a lot of help, especially Sherman Road. Same suggestion to them, right? They can put in a request of areas that...
One thing that would be interesting, maybe, we probably should have Jonathan come back and talk about how expensive it is to put in these lights. They're really, really expensive, and it's not so easy just to plop a light in.
Well, you know, the most difficult part of a project like this is to warrant the need for a traffic light, because traffic lights control traffic, but sometimes they cause accidents. And when these lights are up there, they're not warranted, they expose us to a liability. So we have to make sure that we study the need for the light, and then that the light is warranted, right? I think the easiest thing for people to say is that there's traffic, let's put a light, let's put a stop sign, but we had to make sure that we do the necessary studies to warrant that sign on the street, because it could create a problem.
Right.
So.
Somebody else was asking, along the 215 freeway, could we get more on and on off ramps? I don't think they understand that we don't really control that.
Well, that's precisely. We don't control the highway. I think Caltrans controls how you access the freeway and how you exit the freeway. They try to do those things every mile at least. I don't know that we have a plan in the near future to be able to ask Caltrans to do more of those, short of a call. So not in the near term.
I think we got an answer here to the person that was asking about the Senate bill. They said it involves sidewalk vendors, regulating
that.
sidewalk vendors.
Okay. Yeah, I do have an answer.
Okay.
So thank you for clarifying that. We do. We took that bill very serious, and we tasked our community development director to develop some guidelines to be able to regulate that activity. We saw a worst case scenario, right? A vendor wanting to set up shop right at the sidewalk on Hahn and Newport at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the liability, the traffic that could have created. So we went to task and we created a series of regulations to be able to allow them in the right places, in places where they wouldn't become a burden traffic wise. So we did up ending going to the city council to develop guidelines and approve an ordinance that would actually regulate the placement of these vendors in the right place, in that place where it wouldn't cause a traffic
Okay.
problem.
Question here from Andrew Stevenson. Do you happen to know when they plan on starting the Richardson's RV Super Center off Encanto and
I
McLaughlin?
was just answering that.
Right. We're waiting for that project. I think the last report I got is that they will be pulling their grading permit here in the next 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure they'll be under construction this summer.
Let's see here. Is Canyon Lake going to join your police? Is it being considered JPA? We don't. I don't have an answer for that, but I do tell you this: that they came to our city council meeting, several council meetings ago when we were trying to form our own police department, and the response that our city council gave them was that we're going to try to, fix our problem first before we can try to fix somebody else's problem. And I think that was a very wise thing to do for now. I don't know what the future holds, but we really need to set up our own structure first before we can think that we can deal with that. I want, what I like to do is I want to be able to put our department together so that our residents feel comfortable with that level of service. And then maybe in the future, if we are very successful and we have the means that our city council can direct us to do otherwise. Okay. Maybe Gina, if you're on there, if you could check the comments being made by Chris Black. He's had a few, and I'm not totally clear on the traffic concern that he has. If you know something that we can address, maybe give us a heads up here. We're getting a lot of comments and questions here, so that's great. Morgan Digman, this is something that we hear a lot too. I wish there was somebody who wanted to preserve the heart of Menifee instead of just money, money, money. What do you say to people when you get that? We get, and I don't know if this is a longtime resident, but we do get that from people that I've lived here 30 years. The rural feel is going away. How do you address that kind of concern?
I that's a very difficult question to answer. I think one of the things we need to realize is that there's a new dynamics every time a new resident moves in. There's a new dynamics. We try to preserve our history, our culture. We do have a very complex community that's comprised of several communities. As you know, we have Pueblo Valley, we have Romoland, we have Sun City, we have Menifee Lakes, and all of these communities are very unique, right? And we can't really get a single common denominator to say, yeah, this is the history, this is our heritage, this is our history. But as these communities develop, they get a little more complicated. They want, they want the residents that move into our city, they want all the other services that the other cities are offering, right? And that's progress, right? So that is a very difficult thing to do. We do look at and think about, where's our downtown, right? Is it town center? Is it somewhere in Sun City? Is it in Romoland? But I think, so we haven't really resolved that question yet.
Right. Okay, I think I've got it straight now. Chris Chris Black was talking about the one with the Mormon church at Lazy Creek and Bradley. So we did cover that one. Debbie Mannion asks, are you looking into a regional park? We need soccer fields and basketball fields for at least 6 to 8. I know that we added the sports park over here on Holland, but fields are still jammed. Regional park, that's a county issue, isn't it?
Well, it is a combination of a county issue and a city issue, but we have a parks master plan that envisions having a huge park for major events. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's in the works and it's probably in the future. But we need to raise the funds necessary to buy land and then improve it, right?
Right.
Just about everything nowadays is $10-20 million. So
mm-hmm.
we need a little bit more time.
Right. I think we're doing pretty good on having answered all our questions. What time are we looking at here? We're getting towards 8 o'clock, I think.
It's 8:01. I'm ready to wrap
I
it
think
up.
we're going to wrap it up here. We've had a great audience and great questions. And so let us know again, thumbs up, comments on things that we could do better the next time. We definitely will plan to do more of these.
If there's someone else you'd like us to
Right.
invite into the studio, let us know. Send us a private message.
Yep, you can message us on Facebook. You can email info@menifee247.com if you've got a specific request of someone that you would like to put in the hot seat, you might say.
We call it the virtual seat.
Yes,
Not
okay.
the hot seat.
So we thank you again. Thank you, Armando, for being here and
pleasure.
taking the
Yeah,
time
thank
out
you.
of your day. I know you're a busy man, and it was asking a lot of you to stay late one night, but we know that we get the greatest audience at this time. So until the next Facebook Live, and we'll let you know as soon as that is, this is Doug Spoon, and we're signing off our Facebook Live.